Guys, welcome back to Let's Be Frank, the home of men's mental health. Today we have got a thrilling rock and roll quartet in the house that go by the name of Shadows of a Silhouette. And the sound is a fusion of alternative, rebellious, and personal vibes. Coming from the heart of England, this band has released over 25 original tracks on Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon. We're joined by Nathan Tyler, who, along with Fred Reese, have been creating music for 4 years, churning out more than 50 songs on SoundCloud and major platforms. Drawing inspiration from legends like Arctic Monkeys, Bowie, and Nirvana, the music has even graced BBC introducing for the East Midlands, and they've rocked the Metrodome in Nottingham. They've also played the Quarry stage during the Why Not Festival in front of 2,000 fans, an experience that fueled their passion for music. This year, they have hit the main stage at Why Not Festival, producing an unforgettable show. So, guys, girls, stay tuned as we dive into the guys' world and discover what drives this band's unstoppable journey. But as always, let's check in with resident host, Mr. Ryan Smith. How you doing, mate?
What an introduction that was, eh? This is like
I'll tell you what, man, I'll kind of
this is like the big time now, isn't it? This is just like I'm going to say so rock and roll, but that's like I think that's more like 60s rather than or is it the 90s? I don't know. Anyway, I just know I'm older than most of this band put together. So yeah, no, absolutely brilliant to get these guys on. I'm feeling good. Started watching the ice hockey today. It's a little bit late jumping on with you just because of the ice hockey, but do you know what? I'm in a good place. So yeah, guys, welcome to the show. How are you all doing?
Very
Good,
well,
mate.
Thank you for having us on.
You say you're a lot older than us all put together, but we all know, mate, you're still 21 in that hard to show it was right through as still a 21-year-old messing about.
Bless you,
Which
bless you,
house
bless you.
for Panthers or Steelers?
Don't mention that second one. No, if you mention that second one, no, you mention that second one, and we'll just stop this right now. All right, no,
I'm a Panthers
no.
fan, mate.
I didn't realise this
That's all right. No,
runs so deep.
that's all right. No, yeah, yeah, Panthers through and through. No, but guys, honestly, welcome to the show. You know, it's we've been throwing a couple of conversations back and forth for a bit now, and it's finally here. So you know what, guys, introduce yourselves.
Well, we're Shadows of a Silhouette, and of course, we're four-piece band from Derby. We're just Derbyshire. We try and focus on sounds that are a bit more like authentic, like through and through. Like even all of us playing our own instruments on songs, like you wouldn't think that to be something that you'd be lacking in the music industry, but actually nowadays it's more dominated by electronic, simulated sounds. But I'm Nathan Brown, the lead singer. To my right, got Reese Carter, lead guitarist, and Ferg's in Corfu at minute, but we've also got Tyler Anderson, our drummer.
Fantastic. So, yeah, guys, I managed to listen to your latest track that's going to be released. I think later this month. Later in September. We're recording this at the beginning of September, but you're going to be releasing that one. And I tell you what, I was listening to my car on the way back from Mansfield earlier, and it's catchy, and I get it. You know, it's I think it speaks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that being released.
It's my personal favourite song that we've written for a long time.
It's
Yeah,
fun to play and all live. I mean,
it's
quite political.
Yeah, it's a banger.
But you know, it's really like apartial political. It doesn't really speak to like supplement anybody else, any political party or belief
It's more
system.
for the common man, isn't it?
Yeah, it's just more for
yeah,
common good side of politics. The politics that doesn't actually get spoken about in politics.
no, and I actually thought it actually reminded me of sort of Age of the Shadow Puppets.
Last Shadow Puppets.
Yeah. So it's it had that sort of. You what? Sorry.
It's funnily enough first band I ever saw live actually.
Yeah, that's why it's had that sort of beat to it, that sort of rhythm to it, and it just yeah, it was good. It was good.
Well,
so anyway, no, absolutely.
What was the whole process behind writing that song? So what was your thinking behind it, and kind of how long has it taken you to
Well, I'd had the a riff kicking about from start of lockdown, really. Obviously, we couldn't practice, so
We're
and then
writing other
so I got
songs.
me loop pedal, yeah, and got that the riff down. And we didn't really touch it really till about, when was it? Like January.
Yeah.
Started kicking it about, and we
Yeah,
got
yeah.
some drums on it, and then Nathan, as he does with most of our tracks, wrote all the lyrics for it. And yeah,
it come quite quick though, didn't it? That song come. It was just one of them like click your fingers movement when we was rehearsing, and then we just all looked at each other and just thought, this is awesome, this, and then Nathan's writing side to it. It just
put the structure together.
And then, like I say, it was just about
the words just came straight out for this one.
Yeah, it's what we opened up with the main stage at 1 or 2 as well. It's brilliant. Like straight in your face, innit? Like
tempo. It's got tempo. It's got attitude.
It's like hitting a knockout punch in the first round.
It is a crack. It is truly original. It is really a cracking song.
Yeah. And the lyrics
and it was, as you say,
it's just the whole idea of that track.
Straight in your face, innit?
Yeah, that's what we want. It's a song to get people's attention, really, and then it's you know, with these, and then we've got you in the palm of his hand. Then
prick up your ears.
Also, it's an expression of those little thoughts we all have about, you know, on a daily basis when we're considering what's going on in the world around us. It's just with our ability to create media to add into the great ocean of it. We think certain songs come out in principle, or because of principle, that something to have been spoken like that, or in a way, just for it can be heard from somewhere by someone.
It's just about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer, really, and all, isn't it?
Well, it's about the trap. We're all trapped. It seems like we're the fucking mousetrap's already come down over us, and we're all stuck, you know. But life keeps going by for everyone as an individual, but there's a stranglehold on a lot of us, like personally, as people trying to get through this world that is so slow for some people who don't have to suffer it.
So looking at kind of that, you know, looking at the song, are you speaking from your own sort of backgrounds and stuff as well, your own experiences?
I think it's kind of impossible not to, of course. Like when you are writing straight from the heart. Not all of our songs are, because sometimes it's nice to write a song about an idea that doesn't paint a memory, or it's just.
But then again, on the other hand of that is a lot of our tunes are personal on anyway.
Yeah,
in a form of expression.
Especially over the last couple of years with what's gone off with Reese and Nathan and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it's a way that I sort of, and I'm sure Nathan's probably the same, is to get these thoughts that are in your head. I have to get them out on paper and write them down with that in lyrics or poetry, and then channel that into some that music, which it then becomes something tangible. And the thoughts that you've got in your head, for me, it's a perfect way to sort of
say what you want to say,
get it out and
to make room.
Then it becomes relatable, because although it's personal to you, other people can then relate to that and hear what you're saying and think like, I know what you're on about here.
Or certainly know what it feels. Want to know what it feels like when they can hear the fact that we're getting something off our chest in these songs.
Yeah.
Because it's not whitewashed at all. Really, we all work full time jobs. We didn't go to like uni or study music or anything. We came together because we all
like rocking out,
and we think it's one of the best things in the world. We think that
it's a freedom from life.
We're proud to be a part of it.
That's the good thing about music, where it doesn't matter what race you are, no matter what religion you are, everybody can come together and just be in the same field or at a venue and enjoy the same thing. Everything goes out the window.
It's a universal language.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of culture where we come from, a lot of working culture of people, you know, working really hard, raising families, but not really making enough time for themselves. And we come from an area in the East Midlands where there's a lot of insufferable mental health is right there on the surface, but people don't even talk about it. We all know what's going on with each other, and you know.
Now I know know Jack's got a question for you, but obviously we've just jumped on beforehand, and we actually where I live, it's actually what 5-10 minutes from, not even 10 minutes, is it, from where a couple of you guys live? So I get what you're saying. You're looking at the smaller sort of outlying villages that are ex-coal mining places. It's a similar sort of state in Wales. It's a similar sort of state in sort of Lancashire, Yorkshire, and things like this. And it's these forgotten roots. And I listening to that track that you've shared with us, you can really hear what you guys are trying to achieve. So it was more of an observation rather than a question. But I know Jack's got a question.
I was waiting to ask before we come, because obviously we're going to look at your personal journeys and kind of delve into there and prod around a little bit. But while we're on the subject of Why Not, I want to ask you guys, how was that experience going main stage?
It didn't even seem like that much of we didn't. There was a feeling of being out of place, but also at the same time being exactly where we're going.
Yeah, it wasn't imposter syndrome, but no. You feel like when we're backstage.
Yeah, the best things, like if you don't, you feel like you've earned it, but then you also feel that it's, if you're not getting nervous before a gig like that, I think you've got to get nervous to some degree, because at the end of the day you're entertaining people and everyone's relying on you to put a good show on,
100%.
and then we just hope we deliver. And that's like, even don't matter how much of a buzz we've got after playing, the first thing I said to the people closest to me was, "Did you lot enjoy it?"
Yeah.
It's not about us; it's about the fans.
Yeah.
But the experience is just.
What was that feedback like?
Yo, bro,
awesome!
Yeah,
absolutely awesome.
Yeah, it was a good feeling, wasn't it?
Yeah, adrenaline's the best drug out there. No drug will ever torch adrenaline.
But then you can see why so many of these big bands end up getting into drugs, because you imagine you go on stage and you play in front of thousands of people and you must be so high then, but like we are, and then you come off, and it's not the same as the case for us, but I can see why.
You're trying to keep,
an issue with
you're
trying
to keep the buzz up from playing.
Down.
It's just an absolute adrenaline rush.
Yeah.
But it's like, for me, I'd go to Wina every year and know full well that we was going to be on that stage one day. Like, me and Reese would talk about it when we were in the crowd watching bands, and they'd look at each other and say, "Next year, mate, next year." And then we got that slot for the BBC, and then we did so well there that we got to play. I managed to sort of just out myself, like talking to the team, main stage slot. By the time you get there, mate, you're so prepared, almost over prepared. It goes by so quick, and you've been through so much to get there. And
what I really focused on this year was sort of trying to be present as well in the moment. You know what I mean? Like last year when we did the Quarry, I was so nervous before. We watched a band called Public Eye, or another Derby band, good mates of ours, and I was in the crowd then when they came on, and I looked about and I was like, Jesus Christ, there's a lot of people here. And I sort of freaked out a little bit backstage. I didn't speak for like an hour, and it's not that I missed that moment, but I wasn't present, so I didn't. Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Whereas this year, I tried to sort of keep on stop and be present and enjoy the moment. And yeah.
No, I've just added some sort of crazy sort of image of when you're saying that next year that'll be us. I've just got a sort of Only Fools and Horses moment with a bit of Dow Boy. This time next year we'll be millionaires. So I've just got that image in my hair now. You've got that big sort of Del Boy coat on, a couple of gold watches in there, and this time next year, so it's just popped into my head. So
that I've used for years. Same broomstick.
Yeah.
Gold new heads, green handles.
Oh, love it. So, talking about your sort of stories then individually, I mean, what's kind of what brought you sort of together? Because obviously, you look at some of the bigger bands out there. Was I privileged? Was I not privileged to watch the last ever sort of joint performance of Oasis? I watched that last ever gig at V Festival many years ago. They're brothers. They've got that sort of working class background. What brought you guys together?
For me, it wasn't really Oasis, and for Tyler, it definitely wasn't. I know Reese was influenced them by because of the people you grew up with in your family? Big proper musos.
I've been playing guitar since I was about 10, and throughout school, always on the lookout for to start in a band. It's always been what I've wanted to do my whole life. And yeah, I'd started writing my own tunes and that, and then I'd never met Nathan. We went to the same school, and it was sixth form. I seen this kid come walking through the into the common room, get booted door down, sunglasses on, and getting sent straight back on. I'm like, bloody hell, who's that? You know what I mean? And he's always kicking about the music studio, whatever it was at school, and I've seen he started loading some tunes to Spotify. SoundCloud. Yeah, SoundCloud, and just dropped you a message, didn't I? Like, how do you record your drums, mate? Because I wanted to start.
And I wasn't certain about even doing a band at that point, but I was getting into music. I've probably been playing for about 2 years. And like I was skiving off all my lessons because they let me go to sixth form to do music, even though I never did it in my GCSEs. So I did it, and I was just skiving off everything else, just chilling in there, learning how to record using most dated programs ever, but it worked for me. And just learning drums, learning piano, learning songwriting, really. I was very inspired at that time by the likes of the White Stripes. I mean, I guess they spurred me on to think I could be in a band, seeing what he could do with just his missus teaching her to play drums and him playing his guitar and rocking out, and heavy influence from David Bowie and the way he went about his business of improving and adding longevity, you know, just constant self-belief. And well, even if you don't got it on the inside, make sure it's on the surface, and it'll take.
Right. Yeah. Oh God, I'm the granddad at band. I've been playing drums 20 years now. I started playing when I was 7 years old because my brother, he was a couple of years older than me, and he started learning guitar. And then I got to about 7, and that was because he was already playing guitar. It was like, well, I'll play drums then, and then formed a band with my brother at the start. And like I've been gigging since, I'm 27 now, and I've been gigging since I was 11. And then with joining these lads, the first couple of gigs with Shadows, they had a different drummer, and they were just like setting the feet up. And because me being in another band, I'd got all the equipment and stuff for them to do the live.
Mates with Brad.
Yeah, I was mates with the original bass player. But they didn't have any equipment to do any gigs or anything. So I says, well, I've been gigging for donkey's years. I've got all this. Start helping them out. I knew Reece before anyway. We met in Glasgow. In Glasgow. We went to
Transmit Festival.
Arctic Monkeys, I think it was. But I was brought up on all the rock side, the AC/DC, Iron Maiden. But I'm just a music fan. If it's good, if it's good music, I'll listen to it. Everything. I listen to literally every style of music. But I was brought up on AC/DC, Iron Maiden, Motorhead, stuff like that. And then I was giving these guys a hand with the PA side of it, and then it was right at the start of COVID. I was messaging Reece and saying, look, kicked drummer out and stuff like this, and I says at the time I was like, well, I've always been in a rock band, but I want to change it up a little bit. I want to test myself. And we were seeing how good Nathan's songwriting was and Reece's songwriting. I thought, let's join this as one, and joined in with Reece and Nathan, and then
I got my old schoolmate
just snowboard from there. Yeah,
but you played a couple like when we first started out.
Yeah,
come on for Smells Like.
Yeah, well, I've been playing live, like say, for years, and then at the odd gigs, they had a couple of the local gigs, you know, just in the pubs when they were first starting off. I came up and played. I played because I recorded one of the tracks with you years ago. Number 3 was one of the first tracks.
Our first ever recording session.
Yeah, I did. I helped him in the studio with one of the tracks, and then I used to come up on stage and do Smells Like Teen Spirit at the end of the set. So it were always destined to be. Anyway,
it was, mate. Yeah, you were always meant to be drummer.
But it's like with the previous experience that I've had for years gigging, it was just pass on what I know to these boys, and then they've just took it into their own hands.
Yeah, took it up a notch, haven't they?
Yeah.
And I like to think we all pass on.
We've all got individual, own strengths.
No, it's mint. That is. I love that because you were saying at the beginning, you kind of
original. It's from our.
You kind of met each other and then thought, you're not kind of for me, and that's kind of very similar to me and Ryan. When we first met, we were very much like, "No, you're not for me. You're a bit of a jack of that." and it turns out that great friendships can actually come from that. But I want to ask you guys, as a group of young lads, what are your current thoughts on men's mental health as a whole? Because we hear a lot from young lads, we hear a lot from the older generation, but for you guys in the group, you're around each other a lot of the time. What is your thoughts on it at the moment?
My personal one, I mean, Reese and Nathan, they'll have totally different stories because Reese has been sectioned and stuff like this, and but for me, it's can even be like social anxiety. Even though you think that you're on stage and you can play in front of thousands of people, is having just a constant like voice in your head saying, "Should I say this? Should I not?" and just doubting yourself all the time. That's like, even though I'm the most confident person in the world, people they find it sometimes difficult to think that I'm being quiet. But that's just not like thoughts in your head, but you're just overthinking. Am I going to say the right thing? Am I going to say the wrong thing? And people don't expect that because I'm up on stage most weekends with the boys, and we can play packed venues and stuff. And that's my personal like demons in my head.
I just know that the problem of men's mental health is definitely a real one, because being a bloke, my whole life, my whole life.
You feel like
I've always been through stresses, and sometimes it's because of the fact that I was a lad, quite a leery one to say the least, but just as a consequence of me being that and not fitting in properly in a lot of places growing up as a kid, like not really being acceptable, and I had a different upbringing to a lot of people around me, especially my family being from a different town across the county, and me being the only like lad I knew really, like, do you know what I mean? But I've had very real problems when it comes to mental health as a case of that different treatment. But I know that everybody has these problems, so everybody's experienced a different kind of mistreatment. And it's because I don't know what it is, but we're obviously all a bit behind on something, aren't we? Or too deep into other things.
And this is what's a good thing about music. That's where you can
catch up,
express your feelings. Yeah, and then
words only go so far. And
do you think then? Sorry, Ryan. Do you think it's a? Sorry, guys. Do you think it's a fear then for guys to have the confidence to talk? Do you think that's that stigma and judgment? Yeah.
Go on.
I'll add something to that.
It's supposed to not be afraid.
I'll add something to that.
That's what they say.
Yeah, no. So all I was going to say is, do you actually adding to what Jack's just said? Do you actually? I personally think the biggest barrier to any person's mental health, especially men, is their own stigma. So you were talking about that fear of that judgment, that fear of something that might not necessarily be there, but we put them barriers up. So we create our own stigma around our own mental health. Do you think that might be something with it as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've just come out of therapy recently, about a month or so ago. Finished. I've been doing it since December, so I had 25 sessions, and I've still got work still, obviously, but it was, for me, I did it on a Friday afternoon for an hour, just talking, and that was like my outlet, and I'd get stuff off my chest, and I'd go into it thinking, like, I don't know what I'm going to talk about today, and then by the end of it, I've just gone on a massive tangent. I don't even know what I've said, and I've let so much stuff out, and I think what even my therapist said was sort of warned me, like, the first month or so coming out of that, sorry. Yeah, it's sort of losing my outlet of someone to speak to, and I've always been bad for sort of bottling stuff up and not talking about my feelings, which that's a problem with a lot of men. I think that is the issue, like you said, the stigma of it and seeming weak, or
you're the alpha male, aren't you?
Yeah,
blokes aren't meant to express the feelings,
and I think that I've had a weird couple of weeks coming out of that, and sort of losing my outlet of someone to speak to, which I know I need to work on personally, but it's just
huge, mate.
Do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
do you feel that you can open up to your own, to your fellow bandmates? Do you feel
Yeah.
that you're in a position where you can open up to them without any sort of judgment, or do you feel that they don't need to know that?
How I see that is like when I like going back to, because we're all together when we write music, is then if we get a new song and then Reese will show me the lyrics or Nathan will show me the lyrics, and then you go, what's that about? And then that starts a conversation of what he's been thinking, and then that can just lead on to another conversation for hours of.
We might even start talking about each other and what we're thinking.
That's the best thing about we've got with music, that can lead to conversations just through rehearsals.
But yeah, like that song I've been writing the past couple of weeks, I showed you.
Yeah.
So
what's that about?
And I was just like,
and that's another way of for us helping us express our feelings.
But again, it's also confusing because these lyrics that I've written, you asked me what's it about, and I was like,
don't really know.
No, and I'm like, I don't, but it's just how I've been feeling. Do you know what I mean? And it's just getting it out in it.
Yeah, this is the thing,
it, but not necessarily knowing how you feel, but you feel something, but you don't know what it is, and it's. I don't know.
Definitely, a lot of blokes nowadays do not have the words to describe how they are feeling or what it is actually that's making them feel bad. Why is something happening to them? But that's giving them a negative response to it massively that they can't really control. But you're often trying to think about where it come from to try and sort the problem.
It's trying to understand it yourself, isn't it? It's trying to understand it.
So with this song that you've got,
it's trying to work out kind of your thoughts and feelings. Sorry, Ryan, it's trying to figure out and understand your own thoughts and emotions to then be able to then explain them to someone else, which can be very difficult. And I think we've all definitely been in that situation. And I think the way you guys are doing it through the music, being able to write stuff down to get it off your chest, out your head, which is always the best way, and then you're having that open and frank conversation.
But for other people to do the same with it.
Well, that's also what's good, obviously, with us. With that's the beauty of music, where what's the old saying where it's like we could play a song to 5,000 people, and it means one thing to us, but 5,000 people, it'll mean 5,000 different reasons as to why they're singing you back.
Yeah, so obviously that song, it's like you say, it's to you, it's like it's not, I won't say anti-establishment, but it's like a political stand, and
definitely not
with that sort of No, it's not. It's not anti-establishment, but it's kind of. Do you know what? There needs to be a shift somewhere, and it needs to happen quicker. And what I want to say with that, and for me, this is one of the biggest things in men's mental health, and it's one of the biggest things that we're facing at the moment. Is a certain word called diversity. You have to meet certain things. We've had it. We've felt that on the back of something else, and by actually saying to we want this sort of open culture where you can be a man can be a woman can be a man, which is fair enough. They're very much entitled to that. But you've also got a push on LGBTQ plus rights and things like that. And but with that all being said, are we actually saying to, because we've experienced this, and are we saying to a lot of men, you've had your time, now it's time for you to be quiet. We understand your problems are there, but for you to have them problems heard, you need to check certain boxes.
I think a lot of people shout the loudest when their ideas are going out anyway. And I think, I know personally, I've got no opinions on the LGBTQ plus community, but I have lots of friends who are a part of it in some way. So therefore, it's not got something that's got anything to do with me. It's got something personal to do with them, and I support them with that.
Yeah,
it is,
Absolutely, and I'm wholeheartedly. I do think that there is, there is a need for it. If there wasn't a need for it, then it wouldn't be there. But what I'm saying is we just a little bit of an example. We're looking at trying to take this further, and you know, hopefully it was get on TV. But one of the things that come back is you need to diversify the panel. So me and Jack, there needs to be something else there. So what I'm getting at is for this to be heard, so for all our voices to be heard, we need to check certain boxes. So what initially for me, the way I looked at that is I need to tick certain boxes, you know, as a man, for my issues to be heard. And is in the search for diversity, are we actually saying to men, you need to tick these boxes before your voices are heard?
I think that kind of thinking comes from like a lot of people feeling very demasculinated. Demasculinated, is that the word?
Yeah.
But,
yeah, absolutely.
But at the end of the day, you know, I grew up in a Catholic primary school that was very, very Catholic and quite, you know, didn't really work for me. I used to get punished because I wouldn't pray and stuff like that. But that I even as a child, a very impressionable child, that wasn't me. So I never lived that way, and you don't have to really. I mean, that's when you're purest of heart into it as well when you're young. And I think people will go their own way. You have to be not afraid to do that, but you've just got to remember that all it takes for you to do your own thing and everybody to be able to, you know, not be able to shove you off is just to have respect for other people and just respect for
Absolutely.
yourself. Do you think respect for yourself? You know, you've got to be proud of something, hold on to it tight, but don't be proud of anything that's ever going to step on other people's toes. Be proud of what you've got that no one else has got.
And I think
absolutely
we should introduce mental health classes in schools for children, like secondary school children growing up. I think that really
absolutely, and this is all we're trying. This is what we're trying to get at. You know, this education around men's mental health.
And if you tell people from a young age to sort of speak up and express your feelings,
you
have to navigate it a bit more.
I've said this a long time. I've said it in. They need to have like what Reese said, where I've called it the life lesson, where you leave school and nobody tells you about. This is why I think a lot of people also then. You're fine as a child, and then when you become a male adult, you're the one. You know, it's the stigma is that you're the one that's the breadwinner. You're the one that's earns the most money, and you have to be the alpha male. But nobody teaches you like certain things when you're at school. You know, they don't teach you anything about, you know, mortgages or anything, stuff like, you know, or loans and insurances and stuff like this. And then you come out into the big bad world, and then you 1, 2, 3, you've got all this stuff against you. And it can be overwhelming, and that's another reason why I also think males can then go down the slippery slope and it affect them, because nobody teaches you these things.
But do you think there's a generational gap between when it comes to this mental health in terms of like parents and grandparents not understanding? I feel like we're a lot more in touch with our minds.
We are.
Say
it's a lot.
I'd say the generation.
So with that one on the generation.
Well.
We've had this conversation so many times.
In the 2000s to now, the rate of expansion of our way of life, or what we perceive that way of life, has changed.
And this is
radically and exponentially almost. What around that to make us all actually be ready for what they are expecting us to do?
Exactly. So this is something that we've said many times. You know, you've got this generational gap, like you say. So you say up until the sort of mid 80s. So when you know, just as that sort of analog sort of coming over into digital, so to speak, coming into nano. You know, you've got the people before that thinking, I can't talk about it. Then you've got this gap of like 85 to 2000 where there seems to be some sort of jump going from that you know, that sort of can't talk about it to slowly creeping into sort of 2000, 2005 to this bang, right, you've now got to do this and this. And especially since COVID has hit, you've got so much in the forefront. You've got, and this is kind of where I was going earlier, you've got so much of a gap. You're expecting these people from 20, 30, 40 years ago to be keeping up with you, and they physically can't do it. So are we actually changing as a culture too quickly?
We get to be the ones that are expected to make all the changes in regards to like.
And I think as well, it's the reason why, like you said, this change. it's coming, and from us, from a band point of view, and do you think celebrity-wise, where it was never really spoke of until in the last, I don't know, 20 years, where it's coming in, where you've got so many celebrities that have then, your Amy Winehouse, your Robin Williams, Chris Cornell, Chester Bennington. They've got all the money in the world, but it don't make them happy. And this is then gone, but they've never said anything, and it's all come out in the last 20 years, and then obviously then they go and commit suicide and stuff. And it's like, well, and everyone's taking a step back and going, oh, hang on, he was from our generation. And he had all the money in the world, but it doesn't make you happy.
Well, pretty soon, mate, we're all going to have money, but we won't even be able to see it. And it's just going to be tokens.
So I done 9 years in the army. I done tour in Afghan in 2013. Ended up getting PTSD. And I remember when I told my old man that I had PTSD, he was like, "Don't worry about it. Just knock it off. Crack on with your army career. You'll be fine." And it was like, it was that moment I kind of went, "Really? Like, have you seen? I've shown you the videos, Dad, of what I did what happened over there. Like, cut me some slack." And to be fair, it's only been since I've done this that he's kind of understood and he's learned and educated himself and gone, actually, I fully understand. And we've had people in their like 70s over in America reach out.
Yeah. Well, this is like, I've got a very military base. My brother, he's in the army, and he's in the army, and then all my granddad and stuff, he fought in the war, and he was massively like messed up in the head. He joined up in the army in the 1940, I think, and he was only 16. He lied to get in, and then up until he died in 2010, I think, but there was no such thing as PTSD then. But he was jumping out of planes and stuff like this, and the things, and he never ever spoke about it. Never spoke about it to my dad or anything like that, because they was just a different generation that they was told, you're the male, you're not. So all them thoughts are in his head.
Well, my granddad,
worthless, man.
Yeah, my granddad, his dad got caught by the Japanese in Burma. It was like tortured and everything. He said that they forced him to do things like shoot children, and when he finally, like, on his deathbed, I think it took him to say that. But even his father, he died in the Battle of the Somme. I've got like multiple family members who all died in all these wars. My granddad were in Ireland. He got blown up there.
Nobody talked about it back then, did they?
And also, yeah, like, I really feel for you, mate, because I've shed a lot of tears thinking about the situations that you were all put in out there in Afghanistan, and so much so that I know the names of the 3 lads from Derbyshire who were walked the same fields growing up as me, like watched the same sunsets and the same breeze and trees. And it was there was Russell Aston from Swaddling Coat. He was 31, and he was in the police. He got killed in a raid on a police station in Baghdad in Iraq. Obviously, he was the only one in Iraq. And then you had Ben Ford, 18, from Chesterfield. He died. He was killed, stepped on an IED in Afghanistan. And the other one, Brian Tunnicliffe from Ilkeston, he was 28. He died when his vehicle got just tipped over when he was driving he was in the Royal Marines in Afghan somewhere. But the military service personnel need to be protected a lot, and really get let down in this country, as far as I'm concerned.
Hugely do, mate. Hugely do. I remember walking out the gate. I remember leaving the gate for the very last time after getting medically discharged, and that was it, mate. There was no help there. There was no support afterwards. It was a hand your ID card in, see you later. Walking out with my bags and my box of citalopram, and that was it, mate. Go and face the world, not knowing what the hell I was going to do or where I was going. It was a rough time in that.
Now, I can't imagine how you must know watching that.
Going back, this is what we're saying about this is why blokes have problems, I think, because there's no life lesson after you, like you just said, you've done all that service for your country, and then you just get left into the big wide world, and you think, well, I've just been told to stand up straight, do this, do that, seen all these terrible things, and then you just chuck him out on the street, and it's like,
well, I know that this system that we have might not care for that because it might cost them an extra penny or whatever. But I know that every red-blooded Englishman cares about people like you, mate, and is very grateful. I mean, we wrote a song years ago called "Worthless," and that song's about like comparing how I was feeling at one time or another, knowing all of my family's military history and then passing away, and in what I grew up seeing as like a sacrifice for me to be here today. And I was very proud of that. And but like it would make me think like, what am I doing at my age now? I was washing pots at the time. I was thinking I can't help but feel entirely worthless. Thinking, how can I even make a mark on this world, like on my own without anything
Do you know what?
to die for?
I look at you know, I've listened to some of your music and similar to what I think Jack was about to say, you know, I've listened to some of your music and if you know, there will be a time where you guys are heard, I believe, you know, globally, you know, from some of the stuff that you've done, because what you're putting out there is, it speaks to people. You know, it's what we're trying to do as a podcast. We're trying to speak to people, and we're doing it through honest ways and whatnot. And I think as long as you guys follow that track, I think you guys will touch more lives than you probably would realize. And you know, and I think that is your guys' way to do that. You know, and I think
That's true.
That's the goal for us as a band.
Make a difference, mate.
Yeah,
everybody needs to know that the proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, like going back to what we said right at the start of the podcast, it's not how we feel, it's how it makes other people feel. We're there to entertain and make people happy, even if it's just they're happy for half an hour, 2 hours, however long we play. That's us doing our part for their mental health.
But no doubt they'll be happy for the rest of the night.
Yeah.
Through your lyrics, through your songs, we share our story on the podcast. You're doing it live on stage, and I think, as you said before, you kind of said that you don't know what the impact.
You have to be highly sensitive to the shared ideas, the kind of feelings we all share. You have to be highly sensitive to that, because you have to bring those elements into the songs if you want people are going to feel anything out of it. Or if you want it to be close to how you feel, or you know, they'll never get what happened to you through a song, but you'll get what it made of you.
Yeah, but it's like you say, you know,
and it's inspiring.
You know, one of my favorite all time bands is REM.
Yeah.
Two songs of theirs, you know, speak massively to me. Everybody Hurts, and It's Been a Bad Day. You know, and that bad day for me, I listened to that in a time where I was in a dark place, and it wasn't just a bad day, but you know, it's been a bad day, but it's going to be okay, you know. And
that's the beauty of music, where, like we're saying, back to helping individuals. It's, you know, music can mean one thing to you. One song can mean one thing to you when you're going through a bad stage of your life, and then fast forward 2 years, you know, when you've got your mental health in a reasonable state, it can mean something. And you can look back and go, that song helped me get through that so much.
Yeah. And I think with
of all the things that this country has offered the world, the greatest thing it has ever offered is original music that means something to people and can change people's lives. I mean, and it's shocking that it's not invested in more for the music that clearly just comes straight out of the earth and inhabits people. I mean, why it's shocking that that doesn't get taken seriously by people who have never listened to Back in Black in their life.
So, guys, what is the next step for the band? What is your ideal next step going forward?
Debut album.
Yeah. Next year.
We've got 30 tracks out already, all on singles, because this is the way the algorithm works now. And let me put it to you like this: we've got something like 200,000 streams on all of our tracks, and I think that's generated us about 800 quid worth of revenue. So imagine if you'd sold 200,000 CDs, singles out of HMV as well.
But I think the next steps for us is we've got this single coming out on the 22nd of this month, and then we've got another single coming out later on in the year. And then next year it'll be our debut album, and then to get onto all the
gigs,
then it'll be just gigging the album, like promoting the album, getting on all the festivals for next year. Yeah, and get all the vinyls and stuff like that.
We need to take a step up on social media as well, and our online.
Just getting abroad and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, it's one of the challenges of being a completely independent band, not depending on anyone other than your own graft.
Well, no one's shown us how to do it.
Yeah.
No one's ever said this is how.
And it just goes to show that you don't need someone to show you how to do it. It's as human as fucking 5 fingers and 5 toes on each foot and on each hand.
I'd sooner navigate.
I've got.
Do you know what, guys?
I've got. Sorry,
Guys,
Ryan.
your
So I
stories.
do apologise, and I'll throw you on. It's just
Go on.
something you said then, guys, about because I want to ask quickly, how hard is it doing your full day? Because a lot of people will see you as a band and go, "Oh, that must be what they do all day, every day." But how hard is it running your normal lives with friends and family, and then your day jobs, then trying to do the band, then trying to do the socials? Because me and Ryan know how bloody hard this is trying to do it by yourselves. How are you guys finding it?
Absolutely.
It is hard. It is hard, but then again, if something that you, but if
100%.
you wouldn't do it if you didn't love it. And that's
Absolutely.
Not to mention that I've got my 3-year-old kid to take care of every weekend.
Well, Jack can top trump that. He's got 5 kids, and I've got a newborn as well. So we feel you there. But from what you know, what you guys are saying there, you know,
and it was not the most amicable thing. Actually, it was a whole baby trap situation, almost.
He drilled him in.
Okay, I mean, I was going to go on something else there, but how as a how as that kind of, how did that affect you going through? Because obviously, I know we can't talk about what happened in the courts and stuff like that, but you know, it's not right. And but how has that affected you?
Oh well, it completely changed my future. I mean, I was with somebody, we weren't together very long, it wasn't the best relationship, and I was quite naive. I'd been convinced a few things that weren't true. And then by the time I finished that relationship, it was already set in, she already had designs set in place of how the rest of our lives was going to be. But needless to say, that was years ago. A pair of us have grown since then. But it was very, very tough. I mean, I had written a suicide note. I was going to kill myself within the months after that happening. I was fully prepared. I had my mates over from France, and I was going to show them around England, Derbyshire, show them all of the sights, all the natural beauty and the history. And then when they left, I'd planned on, doing something unthinkable. But whilst they were here, I ended up getting arrested for drug driving, which I never got prosecuted for in the end. And the sympathy that them officers showed me, like when they saw that in my wallet, I'd forgotten it was there at this point. I was too busy, like thinking, "Fucking hell, I'm being booked in here." Like then they came in and they showed me a lot of compassion. I think they probably saved my life really, and I do think about it often. How they decided not to. I think this is what I think happened anyway. I think they just decided not to ruin me.
And it does go to show, that you've got two extremes of a story there. One where you as a man, as a male, you're fighting and tooth and nail. Who's going to listen? Who's going to this?
Weekend, I'm not even on his birth certificate.
No, and then on the flip side to that, you've got a relative, people in authority, shall we so to speak, that have what you believe have looked at that and they've kind of flipped the coin for you. So you've got two really powerful aspects of the same story there. So no, thank you for sharing that. And I just wanted to touch on
do it, innit? Let's be frank.
You what? Sorry.
Well, this is the place to do it, innit?
Exactly. And I think there's actually so much more that. There's so much more, I think, as a band and maybe as a podcast that we could possibly do in the future. I think there's a lot of scope there. But and I'm just looking at your guys' story.
You what?
Sorry,
we need to get that to a gig.
Number, mate.
That's the next thing. Down to a gig, mate.
That's it, man. There's so much more that we can.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, lads, you'll love that. I think we're doing Camden Town in 2 weeks' time. I think.
I want to make Ryan stage dive. I want to see Ryan stage dive.
I'd love to, mate, but again, full-time work, kid, and
mate, I'll be happy to get in next day.
So, I know you do. You've done Cross Keys up by me a few times, haven't you?
Yeah. Well, we did our first gig there on a Wednesday night. It's 12th of the 12th, 2018. Before we'd released it, for free. You know, we've done a lot
Yeah.
of gigs for free all over the country. Even Why Not? They only paid us 50
We've got
quid.
that charity event coming up as well, actually, at the venue in Derby.
Oh yeah, for Safe and Sound. It's something that's quite close
Okay.
to my dad's art, because he was a detective. He worked on child abuse cases in Derby for a long time, and so we're doing a gig for Safe and Sound, which keeps kids protected. You know, the welfare of children, because they get exploited a lot, and it goes unspoken of really until something gets seen and it's blaringly obvious.
Yeah.
Love that, guys. Love
People are
that.
sneaky, aren't they? And evil and horrible.
Yeah.
There are people out there like that. So
Oh, it is absolutely.
remember that.
There's guys. There's a really good organisation in Ripley. I don't know if you've heard of them. Called the Old Farm Bus.
Oh yeah, Mark.
Yeah, reach out to him, man, because I think with what you guys do, I think that and what you're trying to do, I think for the younger folks, I think your stories and your music and your what you're doing can be quite inspirational, and I think Mikey would love it.
Yeah, I know who he is.
Yeah, we've done a bit of work with him ourselves. Our proper studio. I'll say our studio podcast, which we've got one episode. He did all the video for that.
Yeah.
At Mount Street Studios in Nottingham.
Got his bus at Mary, hasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's a nice little setup what he's got there. And I think with what you guys do, I think he'd love for you guys to reach out. I think it would be a really good thing for you.
I love the sound of that. I mean, there's so many people doing great things out there, but it's so easy to forget.
Yeah.
When the media is flooded with negative stories. I mean,
absolutely. And I think
wrong idea about the country now, because it's something that happened 100 years ago, when the people that actually barked out those orders are still rich today.
Yeah, we've been blessed. We've been blessed for a nomination for a BBC Make a Difference award for Nottingham, and I don't see us getting it, but just to be recognised for that.
I hope you win.
You're sorry, it's all.
I saw that.
But it's
amazing, and I hope you win.
Well, so do we, but there's so many massive organisations, well, not massive organisations, but so many local organisations in Nottingham that have been sort of recognised for that, and it goes to show, it's been put on the local sort of radio, but there's nothing been on the East Midlands News about it, and I've not seen anything. We've not, and it's these little individual stories that that just bring that little bit of hope, isn't it, to the wider world? So
everything to get sifted through, all the information's all in one place now, which is, I don't know if it's a good or a bad thing, because you're advertising your band on the same places where people are going to get an advert.
It is, mate. It is. Oh, it does.
Yeah.
Not only that, like talking about brand new Ferrari, and then next minute you're trying to watch Jamie Oliver do your recipe or something, but everything's all in one place. And it's completely overwhelming, and you either have to be glued to it for only 15-second clips to even just fucking look at your phone.
Do you think social media is part there in affecting mental health? What are your guys' views on that? Because
it's a 50-50. It's good and bad. Do you know, so as a platform, it's fantastic because it allows us to push out the conversations that we have to a wider audience than the people we know within our 5 and 20 meters. So that's a positive from it. However, there's a lot of negatives behind it because of a lot of so-called influencers who share messages and put out certain products just for a like and for money, which impacts a lot of people and what they see. So it's hard. No, this is the thing as well. When you look at a lot of stuff, you can tell a lot of it is fumbled. A lot of it is, I can't stand. Yeah, I can't stand the people that proper polish their photos to make them look good, because that's just showing a real negative aspects. Like I've had the thing is though, I've had my kids with me this weekend, and my lad's 8, and he was watching YouTube, and then he put on a fitness video, and I was like, all right, what's a bit of fitness? That's fine. And he's like, I want a six pack. And I was like, you're fucking 8 years old, mate. You should be out there enjoying life, not worrying because you ain't got a fucking six pack. Like, what the hell is all that about? And so that's the negative side of it.
I think we must have been one of the last generations to have a proper youth. I mean, I think my first phone were a BlackBerry, and so we used to talk on BBM a lot. And other than that, really,
I think that is the problem.
I didn't even have a computer.
I personally think we call them at work. We call them like COVID babies, as in not the actual babies, but phone as in they've missed out on this, and this is down to a lot of mental health, I think, as well. They've missed out on a lot of social side of stuff. Where, like, with me,
I'm just grabbing a beer. One sec.
But it's like my little sister. Like she's only 8 years old, but she's got a phone and she's on TikTok, and she's not a kid. You know what I mean?
No.
I had to think we missed it. Like we go back and
this is something we've said.
We just
we've go on.
Yeah, sorry. Like going out and interacting and being kids. You know what I mean? Whereas now,
we're falling out of a tree. You know, falling out of that tree, kicking the football up a wall. You know, it's so, you know, picking dirt up with your hands, running through a puddle, or, you know, driving through a puddle on your bike, putting a plastic bottle on your back wheel. It's things for me that, you know, as a kid growing up, you know, running through sort of fields in woods and things like that. And this is one of the things that we've said.
I do think we're the last generation where, like I say, I used to go out and, you know, I come back in when the milkman used to tell me, you know, your dinner's ready, sort of thing.
Like, you're a couple miles away, and you know, me and my mates have been up in Codnor, down near Castle.
Whereas I think this is for the next generation coming through, where they're having all these, and obviously COVID don't help. For that's the social party side of things, where they're having a lot of mental health problems because they don't. It's not their fault. I think that's just generation as a whole.
And as a new parent, it's something that me and my wife have made that call to. You know, we're doing our best to keep our lad off social media. You know, we don't want his picture out there and things like that, because at the end of the day, that's his privacy. So, you know, I'm obviously putting myself in a public light, but that's my choice. You know, that's not his choice, and we you know, our decision is to try and minimise that as much as possible, and just try and protect him. But then on the flip side, I want him to encourage him to go swimming. I want to encourage him to go, you know, go and get dirty and things like that. You know, I don't want him to be fearful of that. And I think, but on the flip side, we've got to find that sort of balance. I think, especially in this world, we've got to find that balance where they go, I can run through that puddle, but I know how to code. If that makes sense.
Yeah, like, I think if I was to say anything to any like younger lads who are your listeners, I'd say, like, you need as much FaceTime, as much one-on-one time with your mates in the world around as possible, and know your own physical turf. You know, that used to be something people used to take a lot of pride in. I mean, around here, it would be every Friday night, Black Eye Friday, because people would go from one village to another. Like, whether that's a good thing or not, at least there was a
social
community. Yeah, you got.
I think social.
Well, that's it, isn't it?
To be fair, like as we kind of bring the podcast to a close, guys, I just want to say a massive thank you for coming on. I know we've been trying to organise this since the very first episodes, to be fair, but yeah, no, thanks for coming on and sharing your stories from the band and your own personal stories, because I think a lot of people are going to take a massive amount of value from this. And obviously, everyone out there, make sure you go and check these guys out. They are truly incredible. And check out our socials, as we will put all their stuff up. But for you guys, before you go, is there anything you want to say to any of your fans, your own listeners? Is there any kind of words of wisdom? What is the final thoughts?
Listen to music that was made before songs could be made on computers, and see how people used to do it with just knobs and dials and actual sound, actual acoustic, physical sound. Listen to music like that, and then work your way back into the modern day so you can understand why we all got here emotionally.
And don't forget, we've got a new single out on the 22nd of September.
That too.
Make sure you listen to it, guys.
What's that single called?
Fortune.
What's that single called?
Fortunate. Done it just.
You know, guys, it's been an absolutely fantastic episode. I've really enjoyed getting to know you all. You know, I've enjoyed getting to know Shadows of a Silhouette. You know, I commend you for what you do. Keep pushing forward, because no doubt there's going to be some big things happen for you guys. Just, you know, we'd love to share that journey.
We're going to keep playing music for the rest of our lives. That's what we love.
Yeah, which is fantastic, you know, and you've obviously got a passion for it. You've obviously got a talent for it. So, guys, just keep pushing forward with it. I want to say, Jack, thank you very much for joining me again tonight. It's been an absolute awesome episode. Guys, Shadows of a Silhouette, just give everybody your names again for me.
Nathan Brown, lead singer.
Reese Carter, lead guitarist.
Tyler Henderson, or Tricky T as he's called me, the drums.
Bongos.
And who's missing?
Lads, it's been really
Pleasure.
good, mate. Thank you.
No, absolutely. So, Jack, thank you very much. Guys, make sure you do check out our socials. You know, hit them up, hit these guys up on their socials. But I'm going to end the show as I always end the show. Stand up, speak out, and use your voice.